Signs of the end. The very phrase gives some people goosebumps. It's a phrase that incites different responses from different people. In this video, we take a look at 7 classes of people in relating to the signs of the end of the world. The very notion of speaking of the signs of the end of the world is taboo in many circles. Now understand that the desire to know about this crucial subject started a very long time ago before our day. It was the disciples of Jesus who asked him this burning question that has engaged humanity down through the ages. What's the question? In Matthew 24 and verse 3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? The question was twofold. When and what sign? To the question of when, Jesus did not immediately respond, but later on in Acts chapter 1 and verse 7, before his ascension, he said to the disciples, It is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father had put in his own power. In fact, earlier on in another Gospels, Jesus said to the disciples in Mark 13 and verse 32, No man knows, the angels do not know, I do not know, only the Father knows. To the question of what, it's interesting that Jesus never rebuked the question of what are the signs, as he did in the case of when will it be. Now this is instructive for us to note, because just as he himself said, the when is not for us to be bothered about, but what is important. In fact, he not only entertains the question of signs, it's like he was hoping that they would ask. He gives an entire speech filled with warnings and guidelines and all sorts of important information regarding the signs of his coming and of the end. And in that speech, he gives a long list of literal events, activities, and phenomena that will be the signs of the end of the world. So, let us look at 7 classes of people in relating to the signs of the end. And let's see, how do you relate to the signs? Number 7, the rejector. The rejector is defined as those who have a denial or a rejection of anything and everything as being a sign. For these people, there is no sign anywhere. Nothing is a sign. Even if the heavens open before us, it is not a sign that Jesus is coming and the world is at its end. Some characteristics of the rejector. Everything is just a series of coincidences that religious people fool themselves with and try to fool others about. And so the rejector has a very dismissive attitude where they dismiss any and everything as being a sign of the end of the world. How about commendations? Well, the thing is, I have no commendations for this group because you are actually speaking here of someone who is an infidel. I will just encourage such a person to search the scriptures and be transformed by the power of the Holy Spirit. So condemnation, this for me is the lowest of all 7 groups because it represents even worse than skepticism. It is downright doubting the very words of Jesus, because Jesus is the one who said there will be signs, and if you are rejecting these signs, then you are not working according to scriptures. Number 6, the disprover. The disprover is defined as the person who makes it a point of disproving anything that is said to be a sign of the end. Now, not to be confused with the rejector who denies that a thing is a sign, the disprover goes further and makes it his business to find a counter argument showing why it is not a sign. Characteristics of the disprover: they mock and scoff at any mention of signs. Any relationship between events and scripture is pure coincidence and often trivialized as amusing. This person actually feels intellectually superior to those who in his mind fall for these things. In other words, if you are a believer in the signs and what Jesus has said, the disprover feels, well, I am too bright and too smart to fall for these things. In terms of commendation, well, for the disprover, they at least give the attention to test the signs by their critical analysis. However, because their goal is to disprove, they always find the simplest reason to do just that. Instead of analyzing to affirm faith in what God has said, they look for reasons to doubt it. And so condemnation for the disprover, they are stuck in disprove mode, so that quite often they are easily deceived because by wittingly or unwittingly rejecting clear biblical signs. For the disprover, a point can be too small to validate the sign, but it is never too small to disprove the same sign. So no matter how small a thing they find, it is big enough in their mind to disprove the sign. But if there is something that approves and confirms it, it is just not big enough. Such persons, even Christians at times, may not realize it, but they work at odds with God and His purpose, as this is not how Jesus commands us to respond to signs. Number 5, the nonchalant. The nonchalant is defined as those who do not see the need to be too concerned about signs. Therefore, they are just not too concerned about anything in the world as it relates to signs of the end. Characteristics of the nonchalant: their attitude and comments include such things as, this is no big deal. They view things and ask, what's all the fuss about these events? They ask questions such as, these things have happened before. These things must happen. So what? This group is characterized by a sense of indifference when it comes to the signs. As far as commendations go, looking at these nonchalant, you will not likely become fearful of anything in the world, even danger itself. And so I give them a little nod here for their attitude. As negative as it is, it can help to not be fearful when it comes to even the most dangerous of events taking place in the world. As far as condemnations go, they possess merely mental assent. They have a false sense of security based only on the head knowledge of the signs. They know the signs, and that is as far as it goes. Signs have no meaningful impact in their lives, not even to get closer to Jesus. Even worse than their own peril, they are in danger to others, because they can have you thinking peace and safety when there is sudden destruction. Number 4, the ignorant and the unsure. By definition, these are people who are unclear as to what are the signs and what do they mean. Also, these includes people who just do not know. By characteristics, the ignorant and unsure have not studied the Bible for themselves, and they only hear of it from others. But they hear so many different things, they are confused, and they do not know what to think or what to believe. By commendations, these are better off than the doubters, because they are not actually opposed to God. In fact, if they are humble enough and willing, their ignorance is actually a big opportunity for God to fill them with the knowledge and the right attitude regarding the signs. And so there is hope for the ignorant and the unsure. As far as commendations go, I will say that they are not necessarily bad for not knowing, but if they choose to stay there, they will inevitably be lost for rejecting truth. In which case, they are no better off than the rejectors we talked about just now. Number 3, the overzealous. By definition, the overzealous are those whose zeal about the signs of the end is so high that their zeal takes center stage and more attention than the very signs that they are intended to show to the world. By characteristics, there is a disproportion in zeal versus substance. Their exaggeration of a single event or a single item as the most significant sign over all others creates a problem. They are filled up on the hype of signs themselves than on who or what the signs point to. They are often seen as fanatical. Well, by commendations, they are on high alert and nothing gets past them, which is good. There is a good chance that the enemy will not be able to deceive them with doubting the real signs, because they are always about the signs. Their zeal is a good thing to have, and we can't just throw cold water on it, for if you are going to believe a thing, it's better with passion than dry and dreary. Condemnations. Their zeal becomes more of a distraction. Their approach to signs often repels people rather than invite them to see what they see. Their attitude causes everyone and everything related to signs to be seen in a negative light. Then we have the spiritually discerning. Well, remember we said that we're talking here about 7. We've already had 5. We're looking at the spiritually discerning, who by definition, they follow Jesus' command to watch and pray. They have a clear understanding of the times. They view the world through spiritual lens and act as spiritually wise unto salvation. Now, in the spiritually discerning, there are 2 types, giving us our number 6 and 7. You have the mild spiritual discerner and the acute spiritual discerner. And so number 2, the mild spiritual discerner. The mild spiritually discerning is defined as those who keenly discern the signs and all the implications, but with very little or no outward expression of their position beyond their personal heart preparation. Some characteristics of the mildly discerning: they are very reserved on the subject, remaining in the background, not being as vocal as others on the subject. They value the discussion on the subject and readily affirm those who are vocal, but they won't initiate it themselves. Commendations: they are prayerfully supportive in the background, even encouraging others in private to watch the signs. Their faith is intact and they know what they believe and have purposed not to be deceived on the subject. For condemnation, they often lack push and are very passive in their posture, awaiting others to carry the message. They are usually so reserved on the subject that you hardly know their position, and they may even be mistaken for a nonchalant or unsure. Because they are so passive, they often waver between strongly opposing sides of the conversation. Number 1, the acutely spiritual discerning. These are defined as those who also keenly discern the signs and all the implications. However, they are vigilant and sharp in bringing awareness of the signs and the important message that they convey. By characteristics, the signs are a big deal to the acutely spiritual discerning. They are very vocal about the signs as they see themselves as watchmen on the walls to blow the trumpet to warn the world. Because of their vigilance, they often see connections in events of the world that others just do not see. For commendations, well, they are awake and alert regarding the signs, and they actively engage in preparing others and themselves. They are persuaded by the sure word of Bible prophecy and have accepted to carry out its commission, even in the face of detractors. As far as condemnation goes, their strong confidence on the subject often offends less confident people distracting from the message. Their passion on the subject can lead them to come over so strongly that they may even be mistaken for the overzealous. They are prone to condemn others who are not as passionate or vocal on the message in the signs. Well, what does Jesus command us about the signs of the end? In Matthew 24 and verse 4, he speaks clearly. He says, "And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceives you." In verses 32 and 33 of the same chapter, he says, "Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender, and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. So likewise you, when you shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the door." In Mark chapter 13, verses 32 on through 37, he says, "But of that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. Take heed, watch and pray, for you know not when the time is. Watch ye therefore, for you know not when the master of the house cometh, at even, or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning, lest coming suddenly he finds you sleeping. And what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch." In Matthew 24 and verse 44, he says, "Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh." So, which group are you in? Are you a rejecter, ignorant and unsure, nonchalant, overzealous, a disprover, mildly discerning, or acutely discerning? Make sure that you are in the right category. If you are not yet where you should be, perhaps the Lord sent this video to you so you can get it right. I pray you get it right, for it will cost you your eternal destiny. Be sure to put in the comments and let me know, which category are you in? And also, if you think there is a group here that I missed, please put it in the comments so that we can see what that is. Until next time, you keep looking for the signs, you keep your eyes open, and as Jesus said, "What I say to you, I say to all, watch and pray, for we know not when the time may be." So let us be ready. God bless you. I am Kishford Frank, and I am Frank for Christ.